What's up, Gravity Defiers? Today I'm headed to go and take my commercial written test. To give you a little bit of idea of my studying on this one, honestly, it was a very rough study schedule. Not because of the content, it was really just because of my own personal circumstances. So if you watched the last video, then you know that I left and went to Houston over the weekend, and I was driving back. I flew out there and drove a car back. And so that kind of shot that whole weekend. When I got back on Monday, I was obviously exhausted, not a lot left in the tank. I was listening to things and trying to get caught up on some of that stuff, but it's very difficult when you're in the car. So Monday was also kind of shot just because of, my exhaustion level of driving for that long. It's also spring break for my family. So my wife is a teacher, my oldest is in school. So both of them were at home, which honestly kind of prohibited like that, being able to just sit down and focus on studying and not worrying about anything else. So that made it difficult as well. And because I'm going to be leaving in 2 weeks, I also took advantage of the opportunity to take my oldest daughter out. We've got a place called Jungle Rapids here in Wilmington that's got putt-putt and an arcade and go-karts and all kinds of stuff like that, right? So we went out there for a day, create a few memories before I go. And then I also went with my youngest daughter, is just obsessed with everything strawberries. She wants nothing to eat but strawberries right now. So we went out strawberry picking because it's the beginning of April. Today is also the day of the solar eclipse across the northern hemisphere here in the continuous 48. So hopefully that'll bring me a little bit of good luck as well. I really didn't get done until probably the next weekend, really is when I kind of finished things up. So it's Monday the 8th of April, and I started studying for this, I guess, not this last Friday, but the Friday before, so in March. So it's been probably more like 10 days or so that I've spent on this material. However, not nearly to the same commitment level as I have been other things. I have seen online people suggesting taking the FIA at the same time that you take the CAX. So those are just the 3-letter monikers for the test. However, in doing some of the research, the test banks aren't the same. And so because of that, I've decided to break that up. I know in the last one, you guys saw I took 3 in 2 days, and that's because they were all pulling out of the same test bank. So I didn't want to end up in a situation where I don't have the opportunity really to use my time to the fullest extent. So my plan is to get this test done, do really well on it today. Then I'm going to do the FOI test, which that one is a smaller kind of bank, doesn't look like nearly as much material. So I'm hoping, today's Monday, I'm hoping to be able to study, get everything I need to get done. I don't need an endorsement for that, but I do want to get through all the material, get through all the test questions, right? Get myself fully prepared, and I'm hoping that I can find somewhere open on Friday. Another reason why I'm hopping in today is because I was actually able to find a testing time at my local place. So that was really big, finding, a place near me. So now I don't have to drive an extra 3 hours and spend another $30 in gas, right? And then the FIA looks like it will be probably, I don't know, it'll probably take me a full week. So if I can get that, if I can take my FOI on Friday, then that should give me a full week to then prepare, and hopefully the following Friday be able to take that test for the FIA and then be completely wrapped up. If I can find one in the morning, because next Friday, not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, I'm supposed to pick up the keys for the apartment and start my move-in process. So maybe even Thursday. So I've just got to kind of see how everything goes, see how the testing and things like that go, see when facilities are also available for me to test. But in talking with Blue Line, today is the last test that I have to have completed before I go. They suggest getting the other ones done, which I want to get those done so I can just fully focus on school when I get there. So fingers are crossed that I am able to do that and get both of these tests done before I get there. If not, they do have a PSI testing center that's there, so it won't be the end of the world. And maybe Monday is an orientation day, so I might be able to slip in some testing and take the FIA test there, possibly. We'll just see. So fingers crossed for me as I get prepped to go into the commercial. All right, so I just got done with the commercial and I got an 85 on that. I passed, which I'm really happy with. To be honest with you, my test prep beforehand, like 85, 86 was kind of the max score that I was getting. So really happy with the outcome. I do have to say that the questions are different, structured differently than the questions that I'm seeing during my test prep, and I am using King's Ground School. So all the information is the same. What they're trying to get out of you is like still the same things, right? So they're still asking about V speeds and regulations and using some different charts and things like that. But at the same time, the exact questioning isn't the same. So if you want more confidence in that, you should probably do like Shepherd's, I would say. But I would say King's overall, like I'm still obviously, right? I mean, I got an 85, so obviously I'm getting all the information that I need to get in order to be successful. It's just the questions, I would say, are different than the questions that I'm seeing in their test bank. So just a heads up, if you are using King's or thinking about using King's, comparing some different ones. Like I said, Blue Line does require me to use King's, so because of that, like they have some completions, and it's all because of their Part 141 school, right? And that's part of the FAA approved exam, or the FAA approved syllabus is like these completions of those ground schools. So if you wanted to add this in, I think it's a couple $100 to add in Shepherd's Air into your King's Ground School if your school happens to have the same type of requirements as far as using King's. So best of luck to you. I'm gonna go and enjoy the eclipse. I do have my glasses so I can enjoy the eclipse. Don't want to lose my eyesight. Passing that first class medical is kind of a big deal, right? Whenever you're trying to be a pilot. So hope you were able to enjoy the eclipse today. Hope you're doing well in your studies and preps. And I'm going to start getting ready for my FOI, or the fundamentals of instruction. The flight instructor for airplane will be the second one. So I've got 2 more to go, and I will catch up with you guys as I get ready for these next 2. Take the fundamentals of instruction, the FOI exam today. I don't know if I covered this in the last one when I was doing the commercial, but the commercial is 100 questions and they always add 5 more. So it was 105 questions when I did that one in the last little episode that you guys just watched. Today's is 50. I don't know if it's gonna be 50 or 55. It'll be somewhere around in there. But nice piece about this one is that there isn't any math involved, so no need for your E6B or your plotter or any of that kind of stuff. As far as I've seen in all of the ones that I've done up to this point, there haven't been any like additional figures or anything like that. So it's basically just kind of a knowledge-based test. The one frustrating piece for me, I do have a background as an educator in the video at King's, and I don't know how this would all work, and with my accelerated school and having an FAA approved program, I don't know if I could get it all done. But it does say if you are a licensed high school instructor, that you don't need to do the FOI, or maybe take the written exam or something like that. I taught in high school for 7 years, and I still have a current license. However, I'm going ahead and I'm doing all of this stuff just to be compliant and not have to figure out another way to do things, right? And it should be relatively easy for me with that background. However, I have to say, a lot of the stuff that is in this is nothing like what I was taught being prepared to become a teacher. It's very different than any of the other stuff that I've looked at. Even some of the tiers are kind of different as far as like human needs and things like that. It's very interesting, to say the least, to see how the FAA approaches education. So it hasn't been totally new, but it has been a lot of new things and a lot of things that are different than normal. So it's a gross, nasty day. I'm gonna pay attention the best I can to get up to go and take my test, and I will catch up with you after the test. Just completed the FOI. I got a 90 on this one. So first time I've been up in the 90s, which I'm really happy with. I would contribute a lot of that to my teaching background. Super excited that I finally posted a 90 score. I've got one more test that I need to take. So the next time that I catch up with you guys, it's going to be for the FIA exam, and that'll be the last one. That one's going to be next week for me. So I've given myself about a week. I was finally able to get in to my local testing center. If you've seen the other 2 videos that I've done, you can see how like it took me a while to kind of get in, and I had to travel 2 hours to testing centers to be able to test on the timeline that I wanted to test on. But I finally was able to get some openings here in my local test center, so I went ahead and I took them. This FOI exam really only took me 2 days. To give you guys a, kind of an idea, for the commercial, it took me a little over a week. For my private, it took me about a week or so to get prepped for those. My instrument took me about a week to get prepped, maybe a little bit more. And that's kind of a full-time schedule of getting myself ready as well. So those had about 900 to 1,000, test bank questions. For the FOI, it only had 230 or so. So not as nearly as much material that you have to get familiar with. Plus, with my teaching background, I think that just kind of helped speed me along a little bit. So for this one, you don't need that much time really to prepare. So you can cut your time, probably by 2/3, I would say, coming in for this FOI exam. Now, the next one with the FIA exam, that one is back to that 900, or so. So I'm really gonna have to dig in. I'm going with my daughters to a camp this weekend as well. So I've really got to dedicate my time to getting myself prepared, since I'm gonna be losing this weekend. And I went ahead and I scheduled for Thursday of next week, because Friday of next week, I will be getting the keys to my apartment and kind of getting moved in and prepared to start everything up at Blue Line Aviation. So hope you guys are doing well on your tests, and I will catch up with you guys when it is time for the FIA. I'm getting ready to take the flight instructor airplane exam today. It's going to be 100 questions. Probably end up with 105. They've always got those extra 5 questions in there. And I just got done eating, which made me think that I don't think I've really talked about this yet in any of the videos. And one more important thing that you want to make sure that you do before you take a test, obviously you want to have great sleep the night before. You can get it, at all. Sometimes you're just so nervous that you can't help yourself, right? But a well-rested person is going to do so much better. That's been proven over and over again scientifically, that you're going to do better with the proper amount of sleep. Another thing that's been scientifically proven is that you will do a lot better on a test when you are fed. If you are thinking about how hungry you are or how thirsty you are, or that you need to use the bathroom, you're gonna have a poorer performance. So you really wanna make sure that you've eaten, you're well nourished, you've had good sleep before you go in and take your test, and hydrate. right? Like one thing that I think all of us are kind of guilty of for the most part is not getting enough water into our system. Hydration is so key. It helps out with many different faculties, including your brain. You really want to make sure that you're hydrated well before you go in. So I've eaten well today, more than I usually eat, just to make sure that I don't end up with any of those hunger pangs or anything like that while I'm testing. I've been drinking my water all day. I'm well caffeinated after my couple cups of coffee this morning. So I'm ready to go and take my test now. So it is noon, about 30 minutes away from the testing center. My test is at 1 p.m. So I'm gonna go ahead, go take my tests. I'll see you guys after for a summary of all the tests. So I just wrapped up the test. I got an 82 on it. I was hoping for a little bit better, but to be honest, again, as I prepped to my studying, I picked the wrong subject to really focus on. I was really trying to make sure I had all my numbers down, and I did have some ones about kind of the center of gravity and weight and balance and that kind of stuff, but not nearly as many as I was getting during my pre-tests. And so I ended up with a ton of regulation questions. Most of them I felt okay about. There was a few of them that I wasn't as sure about, like, teaching recreational pilots and some of these other things that honestly I'm not planning on doing a lot of right now. And so I didn't spend as much time kind of focusing on those as maybe I should have before the test. But I am now done. I've completed every written exam that I need to in order to go up to Blue Line and start off with no writtens like having to be done while I'm there. I get to focus solely on flying, my practical test, my oral exams, right? Those type of things. I will be going back to all this material that I've been studying over and over again, I'm sure, as I prep for each lesson. So, but I feel really solid having this background now of all the tests that I've done. I feel so much more secure. I know right now, I haven't even started my private pilot's license yet, really officially, and I feel really solid about the information. I know if I went back and I took the PPL again, like I would do extremely well, way better than what I did before. But I'm gonna put right here the list of questions of the exams that I had, just so you can kind of see the number and think about your prep time and how long it's going to take you to prepare. For the FIA, it took me about a week. I was probably ready a day or two ago and kind of slowed up on things. Honestly, there wasn't a lot of difference between this exam and some of the ones that I've already done. I would say the biggest piece is probably the regulations, the weight and balance, and the center of gravity. There's a lot more things about those, I think 3 topics really than there is on all the other ones. I mean, you still have your aerodynamics and I guess there are like turning maneuvers and things like that that you really hadn't seen before in other study materials. So some of those flight maneuverings and things like that, and just kind of how to be a teacher. The fundamentals of instruction, the FOI, didn't really have those things. It was more of a kind of a meta level of like what is instruction, right? So if you've never taught anybody, that's good for you. But as somebody who has a background as an educator, 90% of that stuff I kind of already knew, which is probably why I did really well on that test more than any of the others. I would say biggest tip for anybody is when you are preparing, just make sure that you kind of evenly go throughout everything. I looked to see if there was any, rhyme or reason behind how many questions you're getting out of each subject. And I don't really think there is. Talking to some other people who are going through the test, it seems like it is pretty randomized. Like you may end up with a bunch of math questions, and somebody else ended up with like next to no math questions on theirs, right? And so I think they're just pulling from this test bank randomly. So you really can't go in saying, okay, I know 25% of this test is going to be over regulations. I really need to focus on regulations if that's something that's showing up as a weakness for you. So really spread your time out as evenly as you can as you prep for it. And when you do start taking your preps, you are going to see your deficiencies in some areas. And that's when you can spend that time to kind of focus on those things a little bit more. So I appreciate you guys hanging with me through all of these tests. I hope seeing me go through all of these and kind of giving you my advice and tips helps you as you're preparing. If you have any questions, don't forget to ask down in the comments below. I'd be glad to help you. We've got a great community kind of growing here. So if I'm not the one who has the answers, I'm sure there's somebody else out there watching these videos that can help you as well. So my next set of videos is really going to be kind of starting up school, what that looks like. I think my next video is specifically going to be about orientation, as tomorrow I'm going to go and pick up my keys to my apartment, and then we'll start training. So super excited to have really the dullest part of what I think this adventure will be, and just studying and testing and doing all this online stuff. So now all the kind of grunt work is now out of the way. I'm really excited. Now I get to do all the fun part of really being face-to-face, being with other students, right, as they're learning, getting practical hands-on education, which is where I know I'm going to shine the best because I'm such a kinesthetic learner. So I appreciate you guys watching, and until the next video, keep the grass off your wingtips.